Hello, everyone. My name is Anirban. I'm the Business Development Director at Red Hat for Cloud Platform in the Asia Pacific region. Today, we are going to talk about how businesses can address the IT cost pressures and plan for the future as we come out of this COVID pandemic. People in most countries are finally returning back to work after severe restrictions were imposed by their government due to the COVID pandemic. Businesses of all sizes and across every industry have been affected by this unprecedented situation. Many of you, I'm sure, are finding yourselves planning for things you have never done or even thought about before. There is a lot of uncertainty, and often you may not have all the information needed to make the tough decisions between addressing cost pressure and planning for the future. Over the next few years, the effects and learnings from this pandemic will no doubt compel business leaders to transform their organization at a pace we have never seen before. Your companies will most likely want technology to be extremely lean, nimble, and agile to cope with future business disruption such as this one, and at the same time well suited to seize the market opportunities that presents itself in the post-COVID era. Before we talk about anything else, we understand that your organization will have to cope with the immediate cost pressures. But within your own IT organization, do you know where the costs are? Can you identify immediate opportunities to save costs in your IT infrastructure? For most organizations, COVID has probably reminded them of the flexibility and agility that can be achieved by adopting cloud technologies. As you plan your future and accelerate your journey to the cloud, do you still need those legacy virtual machines? Or should you be considering modern technologies such as containers? Chances are that if you move your applications to the cloud, you will need to modernize them, to adopt cloud native best practices to really take advantage of the capabilities offered by cloud computing. How would you go about doing this? Do you have the business case for modernizing applications and adopting cloud native best practices? Well, this presentation will try to provide answers to all these questions. The next few years are likely to be a balancing act. On one side, IT will have the mandate to reduce costs and maximize workforce productivity, while on the other hand, businesses will want to know how IT is innovating and steadily acquiring new capabilities that help the company seize opportunities in a digital world. There is no doubt IT organizations will want to accelerate their cloud journey, but to take advantage of the cloud's capabilities, you will most likely want to focus on migrating and modernizing existing legacy applications to be cloud native so that you're ready to take full advantage of the move to public cloud, or in many cases to hybrid cloud. In case all this sounds daunting, let me assure you it's actually pretty straightforward. If you look at this in a logical way, IT organization will first and foremost need to draw a plan to save costs. The first step towards that is to get situational awareness, which provides information about your IT landscape and the opportunities that exist to undertake cost-saving initiatives. In this step, you analyze your environment to collect data, then dig deeper to understand the meaning and significance of this information in order to make decisions on the future state of your IT systems. The next step is to implement the decisions that are derived from the analysis in order to optimize your current IT by adopting open source technologies. And at the same time, utilize automation technologies to increase the efficiency of IT systems and processes, thus improving the overall productivity of your workforce. The steps you take in optimization and automation will deliver tangible cost savings that your business wants. And you can then reinvest this on innovation that your business needs while you go through your journey to cloud. In today's presentation, we are going to focus on how Red Hat can help you analyze your environment in order to increase your situational awareness. We will see how, by utilizing Red Hat Migration Analytics tool, you can have a thorough perception of the various elements of your IT infrastructure and applications, and then comprehend the meaning and significance of your IT cost components in order to find opportunities that will save you costs by migrating to open source technologies. We have another webinar that is scheduled on the 14th of July, where we will go through the steps involved in creating a business case for migrating and modernizing existing legacy applications to cloud native. Today's presentation is all about delivering immediate cost savings, and the following presentation on the 14th will be about creating a plan for future innovation. So please mark this date in your calendar and do join us for the next session, as that is the second part of this story. So let's jump into the aspect of delivering immediate cost savings for your company. As we discussed earlier, the first step is to analyze your application and infrastructure landscape. In order to help you with this step, Red Hat offers a free tool called Red Hat Migration Analytics that can be implemented by our customers themselves with the help of Red Hat partners, and of course, your Red Hat account team can facilitate this as well. The purpose of this tool is to discover opportunities for cost savings and to provide tailored technical recommendations and business case for transformation using open source technologies. Many of you will be familiar with the industry terminology of the 6 R's for migration and modernization of applications on your cloud journey: the rehost, replatform, repurchase, refactor, retire, retain. The Red Hat Migration Analytics tool helps discover what applications and infrastructure are deployed in your IT environment, and then provides you insights to make decisions on whether to rehost, replatform, refactor, or even repurchase the underlying cloud platform technology. Red Hat Migration Analytics tools is a virtual appliance that gets installed in your environment. It collects necessary information regarding your virtual infrastructure, operating system, runtimes, and application servers. It then generates a JSON file with all the metadata. This is visible as plain text. The JSON file can be inspected by customers before uploading it to the Red Hat Migration Analytics tool that is hosted on cloud.redhat.com. The tool runs the gathered information through a set of rules and machine learning algorithms to provide tailored business and technical recommendations, which is visible online on cloud.redhat.com or can be downloaded as a document that can be shared with various stakeholders in your organization. The report generated by Red Hat Migration Analytics tool addresses the unique perspective of the following stakeholders in your organization. Firstly, the report has business cases that are of interest to CIO and IT general managers. The business case provides details on savings estimation for cost reduction that is benchmarked against information collected from a large number of Red Hat customers, as well as research conducted by independent industry analysts. Since we are talking about introducing new open source technologies, the business case also takes into consideration the additional costs associated with professional services and training required to build these capabilities within your organization. Here is a screenshot of how the business case looks like, and we will cover this in detail during the demo. Another section of the Red Hat Migration Analytics tool addresses the concerns raised by IT directors who are responsible for the technical architecture. The tool provides a comprehensive view of potential risks by reviewing each application workload and highlighting potential issues based on past experiences. The data from this tool feeds into the discovery session that is generally facilitated by Red Hat technical consultants to accurately identify the technical approach and the project scope required to successfully deliver customer outcomes. As you can see in this screenshot, various workloads have been classified as easy, medium, and hard based on each application's specific requirements. You will also learn more about this in the following demo. Similarly, the technical recommendations from Migration Analytics tool are also very useful for developers and operations teams. They can visualize the various categories of workloads across multiple applications, data centers, and clouds. This is generally very useful in planning the future architecture and testing that will need to be carried out during the migration process. This screenshot shows you how all applications across the entire company have been listed, and then workloads are categorized to find commonalities to group them together. All right, let's watch a demo by my colleague Miguel to see all this.
So let's take a look at a demo. Let's take a look at what it looks like. So this is Red Hat Cloud Forms. It's already connected to a VMware environment, and it can give you a lot of introspection, a lot of data on what is running here. So I could go to compute infrastructure providers and check that I have a provider that is called vSphere that I have configured myself. In this case, it has smart state analysis. That's why it has this yellow shield, and it is connected and it's getting all the data. Let's go a bit deep into it. We see it's got one cluster to host. This is a tiny environment, a tiny lab environment running on cloud. So it's nested virtualization. So the performance is expected to be huge. But still, I mean, we can see the VMs, some are powered on, some are powered off. We can introspect also powered off VMs. And of course, once we have this configured, it could take you like around 1 hour, maybe 2, depending on the complexity of your environment. We can go to Migration Analytics. In here, we click on Get Started, and then it will examine the virtualization providers to give us an overview of the providers that we have connected to. In this case, it's only one. We could have like 4 or 5, and we could see the size, the number of VMs, the disk allocated, and the memory allocated, and so on. Also, this could help plan for the target environment that is going to host these VMs. So we click on Collect Inventory Data. We have the basic data. This could be obtained in 1 hour, probably less. Okay, this doesn't have any introspection added to it, and it cannot detect the workloads, but it can provide a good overview. And in this case, we have the detailed data that it has introspected and found all the workloads that are running in the environment. So we click on the provider, click continue, and it will collect the inventory data and generate, as we called it before, the payload. So once the inventory data is collected, we can download the inventory file and then save it, and then we're going to use it afterwards. Before we use it, we can go to the VMware cluster. We see that we have the VMs running, same VMs that CloudForms is managing. So everything's okay. Everything is running on this cluster, and it's already working. So we have connected these CloudForms to this cluster. We see the VMs. We have generated a payload. You could go to the documentation to see how everything is configured. We have a pretty good documentation. Just search for Migration Analytics official documentation, and you will get here. If not, you could always go to this is a very cool address, red.ht/migration-analytics. And then you'll find the product page, and you'll have a link here to the official documentation, product documentation. You see it here. And also, if you want to request an evaluation of CloudForms, you can request it here and then download CloudForms and be able to run it yourself. You see, here you will request the evaluation. So once we have, again, the payload, we go to cloud.redhat.com. We'll have to have an account. Normally I'm logged in, I have my own account. If you're a Red Hat customer, you probably have an account already. If not, you can create one for free and go to Migration Services, Migration Analytics. Okay, I have several reports here. How do I create these reports? I click create. I search for the data file that I just downloaded, and then I give it a name. This is intended to be make some calculations on a migration from VMware to Red Hat Virtualization. So we have to provide a year-over-year growth rate for the hypervisors. How much do we think our hypervisors are going to grow in the next year to make a good estimation? And then the migration period. So for example, this is intended for a 3 year, but if I want to make it 2 years, I just remove this from here and then increase it here. In case I want to do a migration faster, I could do it in 2 years or even less. I mean, we have had migrations that only last some months. So we can create report. It uploads and then it will be processed. So let me go to this report I already have created. This is a report for an environment with 314 hypervisor hosts, okay? And the estimated savings for this are a bit more than $900,000, okay? The cost here for VMware is the maintenance cost during the migration period, 3 years in this case, and the green ones are the cost for the Red Hat Virtualization subscriptions. So how is the breakdown calculated? Okay, we have the cost estimated for VMware. These estimations have been built based on documentation that we read from IDC and Gartner, and also the online calculators, and then curated it with our own Salesforce team and reviewed. So we have realized that these are pretty good. They are a very educated guess on the expenditure that you may have on your VMware ELA. Then we have the cost that we have for the hypervisors and the growth. We also include training here to be able to train for people with learning subscriptions. These learning subscriptions allow the 4 people that are added here to be able to access the full Red Hat learning portfolio and have access to, if I recall correctly, 3 examinations during 1 year. So also Red Hat Consulting to deploy the target platform, in this case Red Hat Virtualization. So we have a pre-scoped engagement for deploying Red Hat Virtualization, engaging in deploying CloudForms for a migration, preparing the migration, preparing the test, enabling the customer, launching the first migration test, and then letting the customer do the migration with the help of our support team. And then travel and lodging. So this example is for savings of, as I said, almost around more than $900,000, almost $1 million, that could be invested in things like automation or containerization or moving to cloud. What else? We have the workload migration summary, and here we'll review what we have found. We have, as I said, some rules that are going to detect if there are issues to bring the VMs to Red Hat Virtualization, OpenStack platform, and now we have OpenShift Virtualization, which is in tech preview, and it will have also rules to tell you, okay, maybe you could bring these VMs to OpenShift Virtualization. So we gave our recommendation on the target. Also, the difficulty of the migration. This is based on characteristics of the VM that we have found that it could make the migration more difficult. Let me explain it with an example. This is a raw device mapping. When a VM has a raw device mapping, we need to detach that disk, the raw device disk, and then migrate the VM and then reattach that disk, or migrate it to a new storage array and then reattach it there. So this means that the migration is going to require more effort, okay? But we realize that and we say, okay, this VM is medium to migrate. If we have shared disks, same thing, we have to detach this disk, then migrate the VMs, then reattach the disk. So if we have more than one of these, what we call flags, then we consider, okay, this is going to be hard to migrate. This is medium. We also tag for unknown things that we need to review one by one in a case-by-case basis, so we can find the corner cases early enough so they're not a problem. We also take a look at the information of the operating system. So we have also tools to migrate from CentOS to Red Hat Enterprise Linux in a supported manner, also from Oracle Linux. So if you have CentOS VMs that are running and you want to have them supported, we could migrate those CentOS VMs to Red Hat Enterprise Linux, and then you will have them supported as any other Red Hat Enterprise Linux. What else? We check also for JDKs. Oracle JDK now requires a payment, a license. So if you don't want to pay those licenses, you could migrate them to open the Red Hat's build of OpenJDK, replacing the Oracle JDK and saving some money in here. So again, another case for you to be able to migrate. And then the enterprise application platforms. So if you have, let's say, Oracle WebLogic, and you think, okay, maybe we should migrate to something that is more lean and more fast and also more cost effective, you could consider moving it to JBoss EAP. So this could be step one, moving them to JBoss EAP. JBoss EAP is of course supported in OpenShift. So if you want to move them to containers, you could do it in 2 steps. First, moving them to JBoss EAP, and then adapting them in JBoss EAP to run on OpenShift. So that could be another migration that could be considered. So in here we have seen the targets that we have available. Then we have to consider what is the strategy. Of course, for that we have what we call discovery session, in which pre-sales, sales, and an architect get together with you in one day, normally 1 day, sometimes 2 days, process in which we review everything with you. So we can propose a plan, we can propose a project with you, and also on a scope, and everything will be based on the data we have extracted. So you will have a very accurate scope for that project, and we will review the savings so you can have a more accurate statement on the savings that you could perform. Last but not least, the execution. When we do the migration, we want to go VM by VM, so we could export the full list as CSV file and then manage it itself, or we could go directly here and see the VMs that are running here. So I could filter this, for example, by workload, and I could filter it by Tomcat. So in Red Hat, we have JBoss Web Server, which is a supported version of Tomcat, like Red Hat build of Tomcat. And you could run all these applications that you have running in Tomcat. And these are a good target to be containerized, because Tomcat applications are normally not clustered and they do not share storage. And so you could consider these applications, the Tomcat application, in this case are 400 servers to be moved to containers instead of moving the VMs, and move them to OpenShift. Or you could check other workloads, like for example, Microsoft SQL, and see how big the VMs are. Oh, we have 460 here. Okay, let's take a look. We see we have them running on Windows. We could move them to Linux or not. We could keep them in a VM running on top of Red Hat virtualization, or we could containerize them, because, I mean, in this case, you could go to catalog.redhat.com and check for the supported containers on OpenShift and see if this one could be containerized. So we go to certified software, we go to container images, and then we go to database and data management, and we check with Microsoft, and here is. So we have a certified image for OpenShift of Red Hat, of Microsoft SQL Server for OpenShift by Red Hat. So these are the things that you could do with migration analytics.
Thanks a lot, Miguel. I hope you can now see the power of Red Hat Migration Analytics. It gives you a clear path on opportunities for cost saving and provides an estimate on how much you could potentially save based on your applications and IT infrastructure. Now, let's see how to execute this type of migration project. Red Hat Migration Solution has been built to simplify the migration of proprietary virtualization technologies such as VMware to open source technologies for virtualization and containers. Many of our customers discover they can reduce 40 to 50% of their costs by switching from proprietary alternatives. And as we discussed before, you can reinvest these savings into application modernization projects that help drive innovation for the future. Red Hat customers can take advantage of the free migration toolkit for virtualization that automatically discovers your current setup, maps the infrastructure to Red Hat technologies, and allows you to carry out mass migration by the click of a button. Red Hat services or partners leverage reports generated by Migration Analytics tool to design pilot projects that starts you on this journey. During such pilots, the customer is also trained on Red Hat technologies as well as the use of Red Hat Migration Toolkit for virtualization. Coreflex is a Brazilian managed service provider that delivers IT solutions to its customers. As a cloud service provider, Coreflex was looking for new ways to drive value for clients through technology as a service options. With more than 3,000 virtual machines supporting customer operations, Coreflex wanted to lower its operating costs without impacting services and also gain entry to the broader hybrid cloud capabilities. Back in 2012, Coreflex had moved its virtualized server environment to a new proprietary solution based on VMware vSphere. But the rising licensing cost made continuing with this vendor unsustainable. By migrating to Red Hat virtualization, Coreflex has reduced the cost of each VM from around $4,600 to $600, a 87% reduction. They anticipate a total saving of $1.8 million over a period of 3 years. I hope the Coreflex story inspires you to learn more about Red Hat migration and modernization solutions. You will receive an email from us after this webinar that will provide you with a lot of additional details, such as white papers, videos, customer testimonials on these solutions. Today's session was focused on the cost savings, but as you know, that's only half the battle. Most companies expect IT organizations to help them innovate at a rapid pace and deliver new IT services and capabilities in the most agile manner, so that businesses, in turn, can implement new ways of taking advantage of opportunities in the digital world. These transformations will be underpinned by cloud technologies. Therefore, existing applications will also need to be migrated and modernized to take advantage of the cloud native capabilities. So please join us on the 14th of July for the second part of this webinar, where we will talk about how to create a business case for migrating and modernizing existing applications to cloud native. Thank you everyone for joining, and now we will open for questions from the audience.